I went to go and see this oncologist, and basically he was just telling me about what chemotherapy is. During my consultation with the oncologist, he said he only provides the poison. People think it's so easy, that process, to freeze your eggs. It really isn't. I was in so much pain the next day that my head was like this. Do you think when we go through hard times and difficult times, our loved ones or the ones that are close to us show us the right care? Hi people, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Her Voice and Her Strength. You know the motto. If it's your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe and please don't forget to like this video. So let's recap. On my last video, I spoke about being referred to an oncologist. So they are the one that prescribe chemotherapy. I went to go and see this oncologist. Oh yeah, mind you, I am being seen privately now. No, actually, you do know that, right? Do you? I think you do know that. You know, I've gone to see that breast cancer nurse from HCA. So right now on this journey, I am being seen privately. And yeah, I went to go and see this oncologist, and I went with my friend, and basically he was just telling me about what chemotherapy is. I did not understand anything, but he did give me a lot of leaflets, so there was homework for me to do. And my friend was asking questions. I was already at the point of, I can't believe I'm going to be going through this treatment. All I knew at that point was that I'm going to be losing my hair. That's all I knew about chemotherapy. I didn't really know much about it. During my consultation with the oncologist, he asked me questions like, do I have any children? And I said no, because I don't have any children. But by God's grace, in the future, you know, my future husband will come and I will bear children in Jesus' name. Anyway, during the consultation, he asked me that question and other questions. One thing actually that made me chuckle inside was when he said he only provides the poison. It made me chuckle, not in a funny way, but like, poison, you know, that's what I need to be treated with to get rid of another poison. It was crazy. Poison to kill poison. It didn't make sense. He told me that I had to go through different types of scans. There was a PET scan. A PET scan is where they do a whole body scan to see if cancer has traveled anywhere else in your body. And then there was this other scan, like where they did a scan in your private area, but it's like they put this ink, but it makes your private area really hot, like fiery, as if, I don't even know, like it felt hot like a dragon's fire, but I don't even know how dragon fires feel, but you know, it felt that hot when I went through that scan. But that scan is filled with radiation, so is a PET scan. So when you have these scans, they tell you not to be around children because you are radioactive, basically. Anyway, so I had to go through them scans. I had to have a blood test. And also, because I said that I didn't have any children, and he asked me, do I want children? I said yes. He said, okay, so privately, we can't freeze your eggs, but I will refer you to the NHS to freeze your eggs, because when you go through chemotherapy, it could affect your fertility as well. So I was referred to an NHS hospital to freeze my eggs. Now, people think it's so easy, that process, to freeze your eggs. It really isn't. The amount of poking I had to go through this experience was crazy and very traumatic, I'll be honest with you. But anyway, the journey of me being referred to the NHS was very challenging. The reason why I say challenging is because I had to chase them. I was calling around in that hospital to see if they got my referral, because within 3.5 weeks, I had to start chemotherapy, but then I had to finish the process and the journey of freezing my eggs. And as you know, I'm a person that tries to find solutions, or I want things to be done adequately, quickly, and fast. I don't know if you know that bit about me, but I'm a person that likes things to be done bam, 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 properly. So I took the matter in my own hands again. I didn't leave it with my oncologist PA to chase this NHS hospital if they got my referral. Eventually, I got through to somebody and somebody gave me this person's contact. I dropped this person an email. I said, look, I have been referred to your department, but I haven't heard from you. I have been diagnosed with such and such. I need to be seen ASAP, basically. So yeah, I had to advocate for myself. And then this person called me immediately, actually. So this person from the NHS hospital, I believe it's called, I don't know what it's called, I forgot. It's basically a place where obviously, it's like a fertility clinic, of course, where people will do IVF, freezing eggs and etc. I'll get the name for you if I remember, and I will tell you on another video. So I was contacted by this person, and yeah, I had to go through the process. And the process was, of course, they have a consultation with me, ask me questions, ask me about my medical history and etc, etc. And the shock was when they told me I had to inject myself on my belly at the same time every single day for my egg follicles to drop in the sac. I'm explaining it to the best of my abilities on how I understood it. Once again, I'm not medically trained. And I've never done that in my life. I've never had to poke myself with needles. And that was very traumatic. It was crazy. But I had to call my best friend actually and told her, look, this is what I have to go through to freeze my eggs. And it was a big sigh. And I was like, I can't do it. I just can't find the guts to actually put this needle in my belly. Anyway, so eventually I got over this shock of doing this. So basically, after this conversation with my best friend and had that consultation with that fertility clinic in the NHS, I got home and I took a deep breath. And I was like, okay, Andrea, let's do this. This is what you've got to do. And I started to do that. Every single day I was calculating my time. There was one day I panicked because I didn't do it at the right time. Then I called the emergency line. Oh my gosh, what do I do? And with the NHS, you know, I don't want to say something wrong, so let's just pause. But anyway, the out of hours person was not really as friendly. But anyway, we move on. But I started to feel that my belly was getting bruised. I started to have little like black dots and marks on my belly from the poking and injecting myself with this liquid to make my eggs drop into the sac and for them to do the procedure to take it out and freeze them. Is the freezing process easy? Personally, for me, it wasn't. It was very hard, like I said, and traumatic. I keep on repeating that word because it really was. But the fact that I had to do something like that for the first time of my life and face myself and do that, when it came to blood tests, PET scans, all these scans I had to have where I'm being poked left, right, and center, I became so immune to it that I just wasn't fazed anymore. It was just like, okay. The people that were carrying out this test, they probably thought, oh, this person is strong. But little did they know I was crying inside and I was screaming inside though. But they couldn't see that. They probably just perceived, oh, this person is strong. Yeah. She's not feeling anything. After that, I had the egg freezing procedure, and that wasn't easy either. But when I finished the process of injecting myself to prepare the eggs to be frozen, I had an appointment booked for the procedure. I had the procedure and they told me the aftercare, and I also had to take paracetamol, I think after a couple of hours from the procedure. Also, I bled a bit as well after the procedure. I don't want to get too graphic, but if you do have questions of the procedure and you want more detail, because I'm kind of giving an overview, you can drop me a message privately on my Instagram or drop me an email, and I'll be glad to respond to your message. I went through that procedure. My best friend did come to wait for me because I had to be with someone to take me home after this procedure as well. So yeah, she came and we went home together. During that time of that procedure, I actually had a friend that was going through a medical situation, and I was there for my friend, of course, as well. Although they knew as well what I was going through or what I was about to embark, I was still there for my friend. And I was so focused about my friend. Although I was a person bleeding after this procedure, my friend made me recognize that as well, that I need to chill out. I need to think about what I'm going through. But I wasn't actually processing all of this. I was just going to these things because I had to do this and prepare myself for this chemotherapy. Also, I was told that when I start chemotherapy, I will be injected in my belly with an implant called Zoladex. Zoladex is an implant that will stop a woman's menstrual cycle. So my oncologist said that also it can also protect your fertility as well. But anyway, he didn't want to take the risks. That's why I froze my eggs. So a lot of injecting, belly, all of that. The first time I got that Zoladex, mind you, that happened before I started chemotherapy. It was so painful. This particular nurse did not even give me no numbing cream. When I did tell them, wow, that was painful, he then offered numbing cream. So anyone out there that's about to embark the journey of chemotherapy, but you are prescribed to have Zoladex, do ask for numbing cream. It really helped me a lot. I will put the numbing cream maybe a couple of hours before I get to my chemotherapy session, and it was very helpful. I didn't feel the pain as much. Like Zoladex feels like a gunshot, and I don't know how a gunshot feels, but it feels like someone stabbing you and poking you, like bam, 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 twice, and it's very harsh. So having the numbing cream really does help. So the next step, after doing all these tests, freezing eggs, I was also offered if I want to have a PICC line or a port. So a port is where they'll put some sort of device underneath your skin where they will feed the chemotherapy every session. Because what I was explained is that if my arm was used all the time for chemotherapy to be fed through, my veins will collapse basically, and it wouldn't be good. So that's why I was offered these different options of a PICC line was basically some other type of, some sort of implant thing, wire thing, I would say, for them to feed chemotherapy as well. But then the port is where the device will go onto your chest, and they will feed the chemotherapy there. So I decided to go with the port, and anyway, the hospital did say the port is the only procedure they do, not the PICC line. I don't know if it's called PICC line. I'm calling it PICC line. Maybe it's something else, but yeah. Maybe let's have a drum roll. Basically, chemotherapy started mid-March, nearly the end of March 2023. But I can't believe that I had to have the port procedure the same day I was due chemotherapy. I wouldn't recommend anyone to do that, because personally for me, it was so painful. The aftermath, having that procedure of the port, which was put right here above my right breast, I was in so much pain the next day that my head was like this. Like, I couldn't walk properly. I was in so much pain. I had a headache. It was crazy. So yeah, I had that procedure, and I would not recommend having that procedure and starting chemotherapy straight away. I would say have it maybe a week before and then start the chemotherapy session. Anyway, so I thought chemotherapy was going to be a walk in the park. I didn't tell anyone that I was starting chemotherapy. Only my best friend and my friend of the family knew I was starting chemotherapy that day, and they came to support whilst I was having that procedure for the port. They prayed for me, and I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, I had food. I had a lot of food. I had like fufu and okra. I think I had some other fried food. And during chemotherapy, I was just eating. I was just like, yep. Also, I didn't mention that I was recommended to freeze my hair follicles. It's called a cooling cap. So basically, it's this machine that freezes your head ice cold so that chemotherapy does not go to the hair follicles. But that cooling cap for me is a no, and I'll explain later why. But I had that cooling cap. It was very painful. It was tight up to here. Like, it was actually really painful, and I was just trying to eat, and I had my AirPods on. Wrong thing to do. I was trying to listen to music. I was trying to distract myself. I was just keeping busy. I was trying to be positive. At the end of that session, I came in there like, yeah, positive eating, whatever. By the time I left that first session, I couldn't even walk. I was so dizzy. But the nurse offered me a chaperone to carry my bag down the stairs. And I said, yep, if they can do that. Well, we went to the lift, and my brother came to pick me up that day after my first session. Mind you, he did drop me that day early in the morning when I started the session for me to have the procedure of the port. Anyway, when my brother came, we got into the car. When he was driving me home, my head was spinning. My belly was turning. I felt sick, but I couldn't vomit. I was telling my brother, slow down, you're going too fast. Maybe he wasn't going too fast, but everything around me felt like it was spinning and everything was moving way too fast and I couldn't keep up. But anyway, he eventually dropped me home and I couldn't get out of the car. And I said to my brother, I can't get out, I can't lift myself up. And he was like, don't worry, I got you. So he took my hospital bag and he helped me out of the car. And I couldn't even find my keys, but my keys were somewhere, but my friend was already in my house. So my brother pressed the buzzer. Anyway, I couldn't climb up the stairs. I lived on the second floor and I said to my brother, I can't do this. And I was struggling to go up the stairs. And then I broke down and I started crying, literally crying. And then my brother was like, it's all right, I got you, one step at a time. So my brother was literally lifting me up these stairs. We eventually got to my house. My brother saw my friend and he was like, okay, Andrea's there. Are you cool, yeah, bro? And my brother just left. It was just like, yeah, bye, sis. And that was it. And just left very quickly. But I just couldn't process it because I was on the couch and I was so weak and I had no strength and I was just closing my eyes. I just couldn't process, but I realized that my brother just left very quickly. I wasn't offended. What I took from him leaving quickly was that he probably couldn't process seeing me breaking down, crying and being so weak. Me being the eldest, I'm always the person, do this, do that, but I'm weak, I can't do anything. And that was a lot for him, but I've never had that conversation with my brother. But what I decided to do was that my brother would never pick me up at the hospital, would never drive me to the hospital. I would drive myself to the hospital. And I planned with my best friend to drive me back home and for her to take my car to use during the week. And then when I had strength, she will return the car back to me. So that was the plan that I had in place. This first trimester of chemotherapy, when I started, was every 2 weeks. And it took me a week and 3 days to recover. And I was still going back to work. When I recovered, I would log into work, go back to work, do what I can. Before I know it again, I'm back at chemotherapy. Between March and April, chemotherapy was just so difficult. On the third round, I said to my friend, I can't do this. I can't do this cap. I can't do this. I'm over this. I don't know if I can turn up the next session. I gave up. I cried on my third session and I broke down, and then I called another friend and told them, by the way, I'm going through chemotherapy. And I told also the pastors at the church where I went that I'm going through chemotherapy, and I was just crying that I can't do this. And I didn't tell them. And some of them was like, oh, you started chemotherapy? I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I've got a headache. I'm not feeling too well. I don't know if you really want to know this, but on my first session, when I got dropped back home and my brother went, I had horrible diarrhea. It was horrible. It was uncontrollable. It was crazy. And I had to take certain medications the next day, like steroids, for 3 days. And it was just so difficult. And them medications that I had to take the next 3 days, I had no appetite. It was hard for me to eat. My friend was making me like toast, like 2 toasts, and I was eating like a cube of that toast. I couldn't eat any more than that. But I was told that I should be eating and drinking a lot of water. My water intake was not good. It was just a mess in April 2023. I couldn't cope, and I wanted to give up chemotherapy. And my friend said to me, you can't give up, just show up. I said, well, I gotta give up something. So I decided to give up the cooling cap, because the cooling cap was very painful. Every single time I had the session and I was coming out of the hospital, I couldn't see properly. I couldn't think. And when we was in the session, my friend was with me all the time. She had to hold my hand. I was squeezing her hand. And then after that, she'll be like, are you okay? And then I'm okay. I don't need to squeeze her hand anymore. It felt like I was sitting down. I don't know if you guys have seen, well, you should have seen that film RoboCop, when he will go back on his chair, sit back and charge himself. That cooling cap, it was like the machine was coming, and then I'll be put on, and this cap will be put on my head, and it will be plugged in for the freezing process to go around my scalp. That's the best way I can explain it. I don't actually have physical pictures of it. I do have a video of myself on Instagram of me going through the chemotherapy and the cooling cap on my head. Anyway, so my friend said, you just gotta show up. The other friend that I called came the next day and prayed for me. The pastors, they came as well and prayed. And my best friend did pray, but told me, you just gotta show up. With all the prayers and the showing up, I decided that, yep, I'm gonna give up the cooling cap. If I have to have this chemotherapy, I'm gonna give up this cooling cap. So I gave it another round at the end of April. And then I went to my hairdresser and I told him, shave my hair, bald, level 1. And he was like, why? You're being extreme. I said, I'm not being extreme. I've actually been diagnosed with breast cancer. And we looked at each other and he looked at me. He said, okay, you know what? And then I started crying. And he was like, it's okay, you're gonna be okay. And he said, you know what? Instead of shaving your hair bald, why don't we cut it down like a boy haircut, where you still have some hair, but it looks a bit wavy. Let's do that, you know? I agreed to his suggestion, although in my head was like, I just want to be bald so I can just process that. But anyway, he did that and it kind of gave me some hope and a bit of boost. Maybe my hair won't fall out with this next session of chemotherapy. So my plan for chemotherapy was 4.5 months, actually. So I just want to let you know that. Anyway, so yeah, my hairdresser did that. And my friend was very upset. My best friend was very upset that I was cutting my hair. I think maybe the reason why my best friend was really upset at that time was because she probably thought, rah, things are really getting real. This is really happening to my friend. Maybe that's what she was thinking. I'm gonna bring my best friend onto my channel very soon. And you guys will love her. Well, I love her anyway. So you've got no choice but to love her anyway. So, but yeah, she's gonna be on my channel soon. But yeah, so cut off my hair, I stopped the cooling cap, and the next trimester of chemotherapy was going to start in May 2023, where it was going to be every single week. At the time when it was every 2 weeks, I was paying someone to look after Tokyo for like 2 days, and then my brother would collect Tokyo, and then Tokyo will come back and I would try and walk Tokyo, but I was walking so slow. I don't even think Tokyo realized that, what's going on with mama? Like, she's not walking fast. But anyway, I was doing that with Tokyo. But as the situation for chemotherapy was going to be every week, I had to think about who's going to look after Tokyo and who's going to take care of Tokyo. And we will talk about that on the next video. Thank you for listening, and I have a couple of questions for you. Do you think when we go through hard times and difficult times, our loved ones or the ones that are close to us show us the right care? And the reason why I'm asking this question is because obviously I explained the situation with my brother and how my brother reacted. Do you think our loved ones struggle to express the pain they feel seeing us struggling through these medical challenges and so forth? Basically, my question is, would you have understanding if your sibling or loved one or best friend or whatever reacted to you in that way like my brother did? For me personally, I just thought I had to give my brother that grace. It must have not been easy for him to see his older sister going through that. He probably just didn't know. I'm just making these excuses. He probably didn't know, will I make it? Because most of the time when people hear the word cancer, people think that is it. People think they're gonna die. People don't even think, okay, this person's going to live, or the person that's got the diagnosis has a huge fear on that diagnosis. Whereas for me, I wasn't scared, I was just angry, like I said in my previous video. And my next question is, do you think as an individual, you are too hard on yourself? Comment below and let me know. Before I say goodbye, I just want to say why I'm talking about my story. I probably gave a little insight on my other videos, why, but the real reason is because when I was researching on Google to see anyone's experience and their story, someone like me or a woman my race in London or in the UK, I was never recommended anyone in the UK or London that has gone through breast cancer and what they were doing. I was only recommended content from the US, so I was not getting any content from people that were in London, in the UK. So I am talking to you about my story so I can share with you and tell you some information that could possibly help someone else that's out there going through something, and they probably just need to hear my story to inspire them, to encourage them, to strengthen them, and to give them hope. That is why I'm talking about my story. That is why I started this YouTube channel and named it Her Voice and Her Strength. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like this video. I'll see you again on another video.